Before we get started, I want to tell you that nothing we say here tonight makes any difference whatsoever. Just wanted to make that little disclaimer right up front. We can talk all we want, ask all the questions, get all the answers, and you're going to marry your husband anyway. Too bad. So there's really very little we can do about this because it's all been planned already. Your husband is already born. He's already bald or not bald, short or tall. You can't change him. All you have to do is meet him and get married. So all the worry and all the concern and all the agony and all the planning and all the imagining is unnecessary. He's your husband. You're going to marry him. So what should we talk about? What can we talk about? Instead of worrying what he's like, worry about what you're going to do to him. What will you be like? That you can control, at least to some degree. But what he's like, he is what he is. What are you going to do? It's not like a Mr. Potato Head. You want these ears, this nose, these glasses, and this mustache. You can't play like that. So, let's take a look at the questions on the... What do you think you're doing wrong if you've been dating and you're still not married? What are you doing wrong? Nothing. Because when you meet your husband, it won't matter how many things you do wrong, you're going to marry him anyway. So what are you doing wrong? If you're not married, it means you haven't met your husband. So why didn't you marry the last guy you dated? Because you did something wrong? No, you can't marry him. He's not your husband. He's somebody else's husband. How dare you marry him? So why aren't you married? Only one reason. What do you think you can do to make your shidduch happen quickly? Hang a share of malis over your bed or something? Or what can you do? Yeah, there are certain sgulas, if you say a certain kapitel tilim or you give tzedakah before you By the way, that one I did here. 18 cents to tzedakah before lichbench. Not 20 cents. And not 17. 18. If that doesn't work, so what? You gave tzedakah. What's the problem? Right? So that one, you really should try. You should do. It's a good thing. But basically, what can you do to make it happen? You don't have to do anything to make it happen. The Eibishter invented marriage. The Eibishter decided you're going to be married. He decided who you should be married to, and he decided when. So what are you going to do? There's nothing you need to do. That is really important to know. How will getting married benefit you? This is a good question. What do you think marriage is? What is it going to do to you? What are you going to gain from it? What did you fill in? If you did fill it in, what did you say?
It's not really about
What will you gain? Huh?
It's not really about what you're going to gain.
Okay.
You're going into more
It's not about what you gain, it's
what you give.
what you give. So what do you gain by that?
A lot.
Huh?
A lot?
To have someone to give to is a huge gain. Okay, so you go out, and by the way, we really should stop calling it dating. It's a goyish word, it's a goyish idea. You're not dating. You're not going out to get to know him. You're going out to see if you can marry him. You're not going to get to know him. It's a completely different experience. People are getting so confused. The purpose of meeting is not the same as the purpose of dating. It makes sense? Because if you want to get to know him, 5 dates, 6 dates, that's nothing. To get to know somebody, at least a year. But your purpose is not to get to know him. So you're meeting, you're not dating. So you meet somebody a few times, and there's something bothering you. But you're ashamed to say what it is because it's so petty. His fingernails are too short. He bites his nails. Is that a good reason to say no?
Not really bothers you.
It's not a good reason. It's your reason. And you don't need a good one. You don't need a good reason to say no. Anything you don't like, the answer is no. You're not obligated. Somebody says to me, I'm going out with this girl. There are a lot of problems in the family. She's a nice girl. I don't want to marry her, but who's going to marry her? It's such a pity. So what are you, marrying her out of Rachmanis? So who's going to marry her? What are you, her father? You went to see if you are comfortable marrying her. The answer is no. Drop it. Don't adopt her. Don't become her guardian. Who is she going to marry? The man that the Eibishter chose for her. And it ain't you. So don't do that. The purpose for meeting is only one purpose. Are you going to marry her? The answer is no. So stop it. Do you have to have a good reason? You come home and you tell your mother, I don't like his nose. And your mother says, nose? You're judging a person by his nose? I'm not judging. You're asking me if I want to marry her? No. I don't. Why not? Why not? That's not a good argument. You marry someone because why yes, not why not. Because if you can marry someone, why not? Why meet him at all? Make a phone call and tell him you're marrying him. What do you have to see him for? So if seeing him doesn't do anything, because you saw him, you don't like his nails, you don't like his nose, but you're going to marry him anyway, because why not? So why'd you meet him? Just say yes over the telephone. The only reason for meeting him is to see if you like his nails. Because you already know that he's Chassidish, you already know that he comes from a good family, you already know that he wants to be married, you already know he wants to have children, you already know he wants to send his kids to yeshiva, you already know that he wants to go on shlichus. What are you going out for? To see his nails, or his hairline, or his body language, or how sloppy he dresses. And if you don't like it, then say no. That's why you went in the first place. To see the little nourisher things. And then turn around and say, but that's nourish. Yes, it's exactly what you went to see. To push yourself is not a good idea. What about you will benefit your husband? What do you have to offer? Did you ever think about that? Not what do you have to offer the guy you're going to meet. You're offering him nothing. You're checking him out. You're not offering anything. But when you get married, what do you have to offer a husband?
Everything you have.
Which is what? You're thinking, if you marry me, you're lucky because why would the guy who married you be lucky?
I'm going to be a great mother.
To him? I mean, don't answer the question, just think about it. The man you marry is so lucky because you really know how to compliment people. You're really good at that, and you're going to compliment him, and you're going to build him up, and he's going to be very lucky. How about he's going to be very lucky because you're perfectly willing to support him, to make him the head of the house, to respect him. He's going to be very lucky if he marries you because you're gorgeous. He'll be so proud to show you off. He'll be very lucky to marry you because you're a very tolerant and very patient person, and when he makes mistakes and he does stupid things, you're going to give him time to grow up. You won't kill him. You won't criticize him. Just a few examples. So he's going to be very lucky because how about he's going to be very lucky because you're going to treat him the way your mother treats your father. Is that good luck or bad luck? For him. You're going to treat your husband the way your mother treats your father. That should be on the question list. Yes? No? Huh? Absolutely not. Pretty much, yes. Pretty much. That's what sanity means. Sanity means we're pretty much like the past generation with a slight difference. Otherwise, we'd be completely crazy. If you have no idea what a wife is, what, are you going to make it up as you go along? So pretty much, you're going to treat your husband the way your mother treats your father. And then you're going to treat your children the way your mother treats you. Pretty much. If you're really ambitious and you're planning to do better than your mother, that's nice. It's worth trying. But pretty much, you're going to be a wife like the wife that you know, which is your mother. Is that terrible? One of the things you want to do before you get married is be comfortable with your mother. If you're uncomfortable with your mother, you're uncomfortable with yourself, and that will make you an uncomfortable wife. How do you get comfortable with your mother? If you're not already. Being comfortable with your mother doesn't mean being her best friend. Doesn't mean agreeing with everything she does. Being comfortable with your mother means literally that. You are comfortable with the fact that she is your mother. You don't want to trade her in for another mom. She's your mother, whatever she is, whatever you like, whatever you don't like, but she's your mother, and that's okay with you. That's all you need to do. You need to be okay with her being your mother. Not okay with all her decisions, not okay with everything she does, just okay with the fact that this is your only mother.
What does that make a difference?
Huh?
Why does that make a difference?
Why does it make a difference? From a selfish point of view, it makes a difference because if you're not comfortable with your mother being your mother, then you're not comfortable being a daughter, which means you're not comfortable. Doesn't make other people comfortable to be with you. So if you're irritated, if you're uncomfortable, the people who you're with feel it.
Well, why that specific, like, there's many things you could be uncomfortable with.
Yeah, but nothing is so basic as the fact that you're a daughter. If you're not comfortable with that, nothing else matters. But if you're comfortable with the fact that your mother is your mother, then you're comfortable being a daughter. Now you're a pleasure to be with. The same is true with men. Men who can't get comfortable with their father are not comfortable with themselves. To some degree. It's not always obvious. But it is such a good idea. Before you get married, get comfortable with your mother. That's why the Torah says, therefore, Alkein, Yaziv Ishas Oviv Esimei, a man should leave his mother and father and get married. Well, obviously, if you get married, you leave your mother and father. What, are you going to take them with you? So why does the Torah have to say, Alkein Yaziv Ishas Oviv Esimei? Because if you're not comfortable with your father, you take him with you. To be free of the family you come from, so that you can start a family of your own, to be free, you have to be comfortable. If you're upset, if you're resentful, if there's friction, you're not free. It goes with you. You take your mother with you into the marriage.
So if the guy's not comfortable with his father, is that like straight away,
Obviously there are degrees. But if it's obvious, it's a flag. So one of the things you ask when you're meeting somebody, one of the things you ask is, how's your father? If he says, I don't want to talk about him, run away. Run away. Don't say, oh really? Tell me about it. Don't be a psychiatrist. Want to talk about it? If he pays you $200 an hour, you'll talk about it. Otherwise, run away. He is very married to his problem, not available to you. But everybody has a little discomfort with their parent. That's not necessarily a reason to say no, but you gotta keep an eye on that. And for yourself, which is the main issue, you can do something about it. So why go into a marriage with baggage when you can go in without?
Is it specifically mother with mother and boy with father, not the other way?
Obviously, both matter, but not as much. Because you get married, you want to become a mother. But you have a mother, you see, that messes up your whole self-image. He has to become a father. And by the way, people never outgrow this. It's so amazing. If you don't get along with your mother, and it's really bad, and you get married, and you have a baby, all of a sudden your mother's your best friend. She forgives you for everything. You made her a bubby, and that's it. You are her best friend. With a man, it doesn't work like that. If a man's father doesn't like him and doesn't respect him and thinks he's a loser, and then he comes home and says, "Dad, I just had a baby." You had a baby? You are a baby. It doesn't help for some reason. How are you going to support him, you loser? So with a mother, it's a little easier, because if you make her a bubby, she'll forgive you for everything. And you'll feel like a real mensch. Sometimes. No guarantee. But with a husband, with a man, it's really, they never get over it. If you're a guy, and your father really doesn't approve of you, till you're 80.
So what are they supposed to do about it? It's the college problem, not theirs.
Whatever they have to do, it's not your problem. Don't make it your problem. There's a famous writer, very, very successful. He wrote "This Is My God," which is a very good book, and many other books. Many of his books became TV series. I mean, he is successful. The last book that he wrote, he's 80. He wrote another book about Judaism, and he says in the end of the book, he says, "I quote my grandfather a lot, my Zaidi, because my Zaidi was my inspiration. He taught me. So you might get the impression that my Zaidi is the center of my life. Not true. It's Papa. All my life, the only thing I ever wanted was to be like Papa." This guy's 80. He is much more successful than his Papa. And he finally realized, or got up the courage to admit, "I just want to be like Tati." Took him 80 years. A happy, healthy person will tell you every day of his life, "I'm trying to be like Tati." Doesn't take him 80 years to realize it. That's a very healthy guy. So when you ask, "How's your father?" and he says, "I hate him," you run home. If you ask, "How is your father?" and he says, "Oh, my father, he's just perfect. He never does anything wrong. He's always right." Run home. Because this kid will never live up to his father's expectations. You ask him, "How's your father?" He says, my father, you should meet him. He's such a great guy. Marry him. I don't care if it's the first date. That is so healthy. What is the one thing about you that your husband is not going to like? In other words, what's wrong with you? What would make it hard for someone to get along with you? It's good to know. Because don't answer the question out loud. How many dates is too long? Dates? Let's call it meetings. When do you say, okay, enough? You can't decide, then forget about it. It's hard to put an arbitrary number, but there's got to be a limit. It's not right to drag someone or let someone drag you that's not going anywhere. There's got to be a limit. And that's why, number one, you always work with a shadchan. I know all the nasty jokes about shadchanim, and they're all true. But you can't do it without a shadchan. Never, never, never. When there's a shadchan, it's not going to go on forever, because she wants to get paid already. So if it's not happening, she'll give you somebody else to meet. She won't let it go on forever. It's not. And for many other reasons, you have to have a shadchan. Don't call him directly and don't give him your number. Not until after the chuppah. Then he can have your number. Until then, call the shadchan. It's such a good idea. It's so wise. I know, there are problems with shadchanim also, but without, it's just not right. You gotta have a shadchan. A shadchan doesn't necessarily mean a professional matchmaker. It can be your older sister, it can be your cousin, it can be your aunt. It's gotta be somebody. What if you're not sure? At some point, meeting again and again, it doesn't seem to have any point to it. If you've met 5, 6 times and you really are not sure, you can't make up your mind, then you have to take a break for 2 weeks. 2 weeks, nothing. No texting, no calls, nothing. And at the end of 2 weeks, ask yourself what you want to do, and you'll know whether you want to go or you don't want to go. If after those 2 weeks you still don't know, then talk to somebody and get advice. It's okay to take advice. It's not embarrassing. What does it take to be ready? Do you feel ready? Or just panicked? Do you feel ready? What makes you ready? You're bored? You don't want to live at home anymore? What makes you ready? What do you have to be ready for? You have to be ready to let a man, a husband, into your life. Is there room? There's got to be room. If there's no room, you're gonna stifle each other. You're gonna kill each other. There's got to be room for him in your life. In every part of your life. So what does it mean to be ready? You're ready to make room in your life for another opinion, for another personality, for another set of needs that he has that you don't have? Are you ready for this? So we need to talk for a little bit at least what it means to be a wife versus what it means to be a husband. In Chassidus, the description of everything in creation is that there's a certain light, an oir, there are certain kelim, and when the light matches the keli, something good is created. When the light and the keli don't match, a disaster is created. That's the difference between tohu and tikkun. Tohu means there's a lot of light, there's a lot of energy, there's a lot of stuff, and there's no keli. Or there's a lot of keli and it's empty, there's no light. Tikkun, sanity, means the light matches the keli and the keli matches the light. What is a light and what is a keli? When you're sitting in a classroom with your favorite teacher, studying your favorite subject, you become a keli. You're absorbing, you're taking in, you're digesting, you're embracing or hugging the information, the experience, and letting it into your brain, into your heart, into your cells. You're a sponge. When you then go and teach in a job or in a miftzah, or now you're not taking in, you're giving out. Now you're being an oir. The difference between male and female, the male gives, the female gets. Marriage is made up of giving and getting, not give and take. There's no take. There's give and get, give and receive. There's no take. How prepared are you? How ready are you to receive? Do you know what it means to receive him? Like when you're studying your favorite subject, you're so comfortable, you're so safe, you're so relaxed that you don't have to be careful and you don't have to think twice and you don't have to check. What am I hearing? What am I thinking? You just absorb, because whatever you're getting is wonderful. That's how you have to feel about your husband. You're letting him into your life, doesn't matter. It's wonderful, you're comfortable, you trust him, and you take every part of him, not some part. Are you ready to do this? I mean, physically, which doesn't even compare, when you hug somebody, I mean really hug somebody, there's no restraint. You're not holding back. You're not hugging some part of him. It's unconditional. When you hug a baby, you have no conditions. I love most of you. Pretty much I'm comfortable with you. You hug that baby and there's nothing about the baby you don't love or accept. So you've absorbed that baby not only into your arms, into everything. And not just the baby's shoulders, everything. And you're not afraid. Maybe this baby is going to kick you or hate you, and you have to protect yourself. Don't protect myself. Whatever he is and every part of him, I want in my life. That's what it means to be a keli. A keli means you absorb him, you take him into your life with the pits and everything. If you have to be careful, if you're a little bit worried that maybe some part of him you don't really like, that's a disaster. Like sitting in a classroom and you're not quite comfortable with the teacher or the subject. And you're listening, but you're not listening. You're hearing it, but you're a little skeptical. You're resisting it a little bit. You're protecting yourself. I don't want to be given bad information, so I'm listening very carefully. And if I catch you by a mistake, then you're not absorbing at all. You're not a keli, you're not a student, you're a frustrated reporter. And you're going to write a report on what you learned. This is not called learning at all.
That feeling comes from you or from him?
Ah.
Or it's-
Here's what it is.
What's the question?
Does that feeling come from you or from him? Does he make you feel like that? Is it the teacher that makes you feel that way? Or is it that you're a really good student? You are a really good student because that's what a woman does. A woman embraces, a woman absorbs into her world and into her life another human being and then a bunch of little human beings. But you can't do that if your husband isn't reliable. If your husband doesn't give you the confidence to do that, then you will not do it. It takes so much confidence to be so unconditionally vulnerable. Come into my life, every part of my life, all of you. Whoa, shouldn't you check a little more carefully? Maybe some part of your life he shouldn't be in. Maybe you should keep a few secrets from him. Maybe you should have a little money put aside that he doesn't know about just in case. Oh, that's bad news. That's bad news. I married him because I like almost everything about him. Don't do that. He is going to come into your life the way he is, with the skin and with the pits and with the... If you don't want that, then you don't want him. You can't absorb partially. You can't surrender almost. That is so frustrating. So if you can't trust him completely and just give yourself away to him, then you're going to be frustrated. But how do you give yourself away to someone? Isn't that too risky? That's why he has to give you the confidence, the security. It's safe. You can just close your eyes and surrender. Absorb him completely without any fear, without any defense. And that's why it's really not true that you get married in stages. You know, the first year you not really know each other, you're not really so married, You're just working on it. The second year is a little better. The third year, you get closer. No. The minute you walk out from under the chuppah, you are completely, totally, absolutely married. You're not going to become more married next year. That's what marriage is. It's not a learning process. It's not even a growing process. It's an absolute change. I was alone, now I am not. I was me, now I am we. Absolutely, completely, and totally. I like this example. Two friends who have been friends forever, like for 50 years. They do everything together. They are the best friends in the world. And they're on a boat. And the boat is sinking. One of them sees an opportunity to save himself, so he jumps on the raft, saves his life. Then he realizes, wait a minute, what happened to my friend? He had forgotten. He will feel guilty. He'll say, I'll never forgive myself. But everybody else in the world will tell him, we understand. You were panicked. You were panicked. So, I understand. Your life was in danger, so you grabbed the first opportunity. Understand? But imagine that on that boat there was a young couple who had gotten married the week before. This is their honeymoon. And the ship is going down, and the husband sees an opportunity to save himself. He jumps on the raft, and then 20 minutes later he thinks, where's my wife? Nobody will ever forgive him. He'll say, but I panicked. No excuse. You forgot your wife? He said, but my wife, I just met her. We're only married a week. It's only You forgot your wife? So what is it about marriage? A friend for 50 years you can forget and we understand. But a wife of 1 week, you forgot your wife? You're an animal. What is that? How is it that the minute he puts the ring on your finger, you are more related to him than to your father? How did that happen? I can understand 30 years later. You've gotten so comfortable with him, you're more attached to him than to your father. But under the chuppah, that is marriage. It's scary. In the olden days, people hardly met. Your father went to the yeshiva. The Rosh Yeshiva told him there's a good boy sitting over there. That's it. It's your husband. He brings him home. He tells you you're marrying this guy. You marry him and you live happily ever after. How did that work? And it worked. How did it work? It's because people understood marriage. They weren't psychologists. They didn't understand psychology. They understood marriage. When the guy married you, you didn't know his middle name. You met him last week, but you understood what it means to get married. And when you stood under the chuppah, you got married, and it was real. So it worked. Which is the other thing. To get ready for marriage, you have to get comfortable with your mother. You have to have room for another person in your life. And number 3, You have to really love the idea of being married. It's not enough to love him. Loving him is not a good excuse for getting married. You love him, don't get married. You get married because you love the idea of marriage. Like when you were 8 and you wanted to get married. Not to a guy. Well, that's disgusting. So you were not in love with some guy. You were in love with marriage. I want to be a mommy. You find out what it takes and you say, oh, maybe not. But when you were innocent, when you were 8 years old, you wanted to be a mommy. You wanted to be married. Because that's right. That's good. That's the way it's supposed to be. Okay, fine. You got to find a guy to do it with. All right, you find a guy. But the main thing is, you got to be married. If you don't like that idea, then don't marry someone no matter how much you love him. And the same in reverse. If a guy is not excited about marriage, he's only excited about you, don't marry him. He doesn't really want to be married. In the olden days, marriage was marriage. In America, this mishigas, why do you get married? Because you fell in love. With what? With him. That's not a reason to get married. You love him, you love him. Let somebody else get married. You get married because you love marriage. And you marry him. I'll tell you in a minute why. There's another thing. In order to be ready, or feel ready, marriage means finding a partner in your life. A life partner. Yeah, sometimes marriage is called a life partner. To have a life partner, you first have to have a life. You can't go to a man and say, you want to be my partner? Yeah, and what? Well, I don't know. But be my partner and we'll figure it out. It doesn't work like that. You have to have a life and then find someone who will support you and be your partner in that life. First, you invent a business. Then you find a partner for your business, not the other way around. Or like Sholem Bayis. How do I get Sholem Bayis? I don't know. Do you have a bias? You're worried about the Sholem Bayis. You have a bias? Do you have an idea of what your life is? Or do you think he's going to be your life? He is not going to be your life. Stop reading those books. You get married to him because when you talk to him, you realize his life is pretty much the same as yours. His image, his picture, his idea of what life is, very similar to yours. So you marry. Because you're both trying to create the same life, it works better if you do it together. But if you have different ideas of what life is, then you're not partners in the same life. Don't do it. So before you go to figure out who you're going to marry, who you're going to share your life with, you first have to have some idea. What is your life? Share what life? That's why there's a time when you're a teenager, you shouldn't be getting married. You say, oh, because you're not mature. It doesn't matter how mature you are. You don't have a life to share. You don't have a picture. You don't have a vision of what your life is going to be. So how do you know who will share it with you? You're ready to get married when you have a picture of what your life is going to be like.
How specific does the picture have to be?
Obviously, the more specific, the better. Not too specific, because then you're a little OCD. Don't get too specific, but you have to have a picture. So try this. Relax. Not now. When you get home. Relax, close your eyes, and imagine yourself 12 years from now. What do you look like? You've got this tichel. Keeps slipping over your eyes. This kid won't stop pulling on your apron while you're trying to pull a hot plate out of the oven. Can you picture this? Your husband walks in the door. He says, "This place is a mess. Can't you clean up?" No. Wrong husband, sorry. Rewind. "12 years from now, you are married. What do you look like? What does the house look like? It's your house, you should know. What are the children doing? What are your children doing? You don't know? They're your children. What are they doing? How do you feel? Now your husband comes in through the front door. How do you feel? He just came home. That makes you feel not what do you want to feel. It's already 12 years later and this is happening. What do you feel when your husband walks in the door? Oh no, him again? Chas v'shalom. What do you feel? You have to be able to imagine it if you're going to do it. But most people in this romantic age of ours never think that far. All they think is, I'm going to meet somebody and he's great. That's it. Can you move ahead a little bit? A year later, 2 years later, 10 years later? That's called having a life. Now, when you meet somebody, you can compare notes. You say, what kind of a life do you think you're going to have? He says, well, I can just imagine 12 years from now, I'm on the beach. Uh-oh. Bye. You've got a completely, your life is a commercial. I want a life. So, to get ready, to feel ready, imagine yourself married. What is your life about? You see yourself sitting with your daughter, going over the parsha for tomorrow's homework? Which parsha? Where are you sitting? Dining room table?
You guessed it.
On the beach? Yeah, I'm on the beach learning Parsha with my mom. Drinking beer with potato chips and teaching my daughter the Parsha. That wouldn't work too good. So, where are you sitting? Does she understand what you're saying, or is she a dumb kid? Are you frustrated because she's not listening? Are you so impressed that she's so smart? She's teaching you the Parsha? Come on, what do you... Daydream a little bit. Get a picture of what life is supposed to be. So what do we have? See if I remember even. You have to use a shadchan. You have to make peace with your mother. Get comfortable with your mother. You gotta love marriage, not just someone. You have to be big enough to have another person in every part of your life. You have to trust him so much that you don't have to worry, you don't have to protect yourself, you don't have to have any fears. You can just surrender completely.
I don't know if you're ready for that. What?
If the idea doesn't scare you, we're never completely ready. Like, are you ready to become a mother? And if you say, oh yeah, you don't know what a mother is. Don't be so confident that you can do this impossible job. But you're ready. Doesn't seem strange to you. That's ready. What else? Who's taking notes?
I think you need to have a life. Use it.
You have to have a life so that you can choose a life partner. You have to have a house so that you can have a sholem bayis. What else? That's it? Simple.
And when you say house, you mean like physical house?
No. A physical house is not a home. I mean a home. It's like sometimes I talk to these couples and they've got so many complaints and so many, and they accuse each other of all sorts of things, and then they say, so should we get divorced? I said, you are divorced. Maybe you should get married. You never got married. You were playing house. Get married. By the way, isn't it interesting you play house? You don't play home. Home is not a game. You can play house. You don't play home. Home is real. So you have to have a home, and then you have sholem in the home. But without a home, what are you trying to have sholem for? You're not even married. Oh, and the other thing is, the husband is the giver, the oil, and the wife is the keli. Who benefits more? The oil from the keli or the keli from the oil? Who benefits more, the neshama or the guf? The guf is the keli. Who benefits more? It seems like the body benefits more, because without the neshama, It's dead. Has no life. But if you look a little deeper, the neshama benefits more from the body than the body gets from the neshama. Because the neshama is so alive, has so much energy, it has so many good qualities, it has so much to give, and there's no place to give it. It's like you have a secret that is so exciting and you have no one to tell it to. It's so frustrating. The Keli does so much for the Eid. The woman does more for the man, even though it looks like the man does more for the woman. So the fact that the woman is passive doesn't seem to be doing a lot for him. He seems to be working, bringing home money, supporting you, making all the decisions. He seems to be busy, and like most husbands say, what have you done all day? You don't do anything all day. Yeah, but without you, he couldn't do anything all day. What does a woman do for her husband? Cooks? Laundry? What does a mother do for her baby while she's pregnant? Nothing. What could she do? Nothing. She's making a baby and she isn't doing anything. For 9 months, she creates this human being and she hasn't done a thing. It's like the baby's happening by itself. The mother invites the baby into her life, into her body, into her life. And when the baby comes into her space, it just blossoms. She doesn't have to do anything else. That's also known as nurturing. You know, women are nurturers. What does that mean? What does that mean? Women know how to spoon feed babies? Women are nurturers means you don't have to do anything. But when someone comes into your atmosphere, into your space, they will come alive and you don't have to do anything. When you come home, you feel nurtured. Even today. Why? When you come home, what does your mother do for you? She hasn't fed you in a long time. She doesn't have to do anything. When you're in her place, you feel alive. That's called nurturing. Feeding the baby, diapering the baby, you can hire somebody to do that. Nurturing means, if you're in my space, you will live. My space is life-giving. Actually, that's what a uterus is. What is a uterus? It's a space that nurtures. What does it do? Nobody knows. It doesn't seem to be doing anything. But the baby is doing fine. It's an amazing thing. It's like the Beis Hamikdash. You come into the Beis Hamikdash, you don't have to do anything. You come alive. It's a nurturing place. So what do you do for your husband? You let him in. That's all. You let him into your heart, into your soul, into your life, into your space, and he just thrives. That's why under the chuppah, he has to give you a ring and he has to say Harayat Mekudeshes. You don't have to do anything. Because without doing anything, you're giving him more than he gives you. So the big chachamim of our generation, oh, he gives her a ring? Well, that's not fair. She should give him a ring too. Oh, nah, that's very nice. Now he has a ring and she has a ring. Isn't that cute? That's so childish. Well, if you give me a ring, why should I give you a ring? The woman doesn't do anything, and that makes her more powerful than him. Are you ready to do that? Are you brave enough? You know, the baby will thrive if you let it in. Whether sometimes you get pregnant, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you don't let it in. If you don't let the baby into the uterus, if you do let him in, it's got to be the whole baby. There's no partial pregnancy. Can't be a little bit pregnant. The whole baby. You imagine a woman saying, ooh, you have a baby in me? Okay, the head. Not feet. I don't want feet in me. Okay, feet. Not nails. Look, either the whole baby or nothing. Either the whole husband or nothing. You can't be 90% married. That takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of courage. Even when you pick a roommate, you're more careful than that. Yeah, you can be my roommate, but stay off my property and don't touch my closet and stay out of my drawer. Other than that, you're very welcome. Not with a husband. This is where you have to be really careful. If you have read even one secular book, or one secular article, or listened to one conversation from a secular, you got to do tshuva. You got to get rid of it. Here's the important thing. You're not marrying a man. You're marrying a husband. It is so destructive and is so confusing and distracting. This message, men and women, a man and a woman, a boy and a girl, it is so sick. Men and women should not ever talk to each other. They have nothing to say to each other. I don't know if you heard about this, but men are from Mars. I'm not suggesting you read the book. Men are from Mars and women are from Venus, so they should not be talking to each other. Ever, ever, ever. Okay, so we know where men are from, and we know where women are from. Where are husbands from? Where are wives from? Husbands and wives come from the same heaven. Match made in heaven. Husbands and wives should talk to each other. Men and women, never. They'll only kill each other, destroy each other. You don't marry a man. Why would you want to marry a man? You marry a husband, your husband. A man doesn't go looking for a woman. That is so vulgar. Man goes looking for his wife. That's decent. That's menschlich. So when you are meeting someone, why would you want to impress him? You want to make a good impression? Why? Why are you excited about meeting a guy? There's nothing good about it. There's nothing exciting about it. It's ridiculous. You're not there to impress him. You're not there to make a good impression. You're there to see if he's your husband. That's all. That's a very different approach. And you have to be clear about this when you meet, when you go. You're not going to make friends. You're not even going to enjoy. You're going to see, is he my husband? Sometimes you're given advice that is not so kosher. You're naturally a little shy. When you go on a date, try to be a little more fake it. What do you do? Why would you do that? Why would you do that? This girl said to me, I was going out with a guy, but we broke up. I said, you broke up? You broke up? That sounds tragic. You didn't break up. You didn't have a relationship with him that needed to break. You saw him a few times and he's not for you. You go into a shoe store and you say, do you have this shoe in a size 6? He says no, and you break up. When you're breaking up, he doesn't have your shoe. Oh, that's so sad we had to break up. Don't do that. You're not dating. You went out 4 times. You didn't create a relationship that has to break. You went to see if he's your husband. He's not. Bye. What's with the breaking up? Now I'm depressed. What are you depressed about? He's not your husband. That's the wisdom of the whole system of the way we do this. Nobody gets hurt. It's not supposed to hurt. You go into a store and you say, do you have my shoe? He says, no. You don't need therapy. Right? No, my shoe. My favorite shoe. You don't have my favorite shoe? Sorry, wrong store. Don't go into a depression over it. Stay focused. There is no emotional involvement when you meet somebody. And if it doesn't work out, you're not breaking up or cracking up. You're just continuing to look for your husband. Because this guy isn't him.
What do you say about making peace with your siblings before you get married?
Especially if she's older than you and not married. Yeah, then you got to be really nice. Make sure she's really your friend and on your side. You don't want your marriage to cause bad feelings before you even get married, because that's starting off on a negative note and it's not good. Marriage shouldn't hurt anybody. It should only bring joy. So if you're going to go out and get married before your sister, make sure your sister is really on your side. No hard feelings at all. Yeah.
I've encountered a few times the attitude of like, oh, well, why should we discuss our perspectives on chinuch because there's no children in the picture, none that I know of, and, we'll discuss that when it cross that bridge when it comes. Like, why am I going to start deciding now what kind of shul I'm going to go to and the place I'm going to settle because I don't know where I'm going to go, and why should I make parameters that anyway going to change? It's a waste of an exercise. You're just making conversations for the sake of conversation. How do you, what's the devil's advocate? What's the other perspective?
There's nothing wrong with having an idea of what shul you want to go to, knowing that you might not go there because life might take you someplace else. That's okay.
Is it a purposeless discussion in that case?
Not really. You get to know what your thinking is. That's good. But to be so rigid that this is the only place I could possibly go, and if I don't end up there, I'll have a crisis. Don't get rigid, but have an idea. Have a picture. Nothing wrong with that.
Is there intrinsic value in having ideas about what kind of chinuch, ideas about what kind of...
Well, I think it's almost inevitable. How can you not? I mean, if you claim to not have any idea, you're probably not telling the truth. Of course you have an idea. You don't want her to go to the school you went to.
Right.
That's for sure, right?
Right.
So you do have an idea. And she'll end up going to the same school. But to be honest, you have an idea. Don't get rigid about it. Don't get inflexible. But it's true, we all have ideas. You can't not have ideas. Empty-headed. But to say, my child will only go to this school. It's not only that your husband might disagree. You're going to change your mind in a year from now. So don't get rigid. Don't be OCD.
When you were saying about finding your husband instead of men and women, so could you just break that down to the next level? Like, actually, what does that look like?
Well, you can imagine a woman doesn't like the idea of being a wife. To her, a wife is not glamorous. What's so nice about being a wife? So she wants to be a woman and have a husband, but she doesn't want to be a wife. That can cause some problems. Or a man likes being a man, he wants to have a wife, but why would he want to be a husband? Husbands are so burdened. His image of a husband is not glamorous. So he gets married and doesn't want to be a husband. It's not good.
So you're saying it's like self-absorbed as opposed to...
Yeah, I mean, you have a certain image and you don't want to change it. It's for something less glamorous. Sometimes a woman goes to a therapist complaining that the husband does whatever, and the therapist says, come on, men are like that. Nothing serious. Yeah, men, they do that, they say things. She says, excuse me, I'm not complaining about a man. I know what men do. I'm talking about my husband. Husbands don't do that. So this is exactly my complaint. My husband is acting as if he were just a man. That's not acceptable. And it happens very often. And the same in reverse. The wife does things, and everybody says, you know how women are. I know how women are, that's why I don't marry women. But I married my wife. A wife doesn't do that. So why is she doing it? The difference, right? So the society that we live in, the culture that we live in, really encourages men to love being men and women to love being women, but not become a wife or a husband. That's boring. So even couples who get married don't slip into the role of husband and wife. They remain a man and a woman living in the same house. That's a disaster. That's why it's so bad. Girls think about boys. There's nothing good about that. Boys and girls? Men and women? And the whole society, with all psychology, with all the advice, how to help men and women get along. It's not going to happen. Men and women will not get along because men are from Mars. They're not supposed to get along. They're supposed to be different. The only way that marriage can exist is if a man transforms into a husband and the woman transforms into a wife.
Is there a way to know before that like somebody will transform into a husband?
That's why it's important to know, do you love marriage? Which means, do you look forward to being a wife? If that thought turns you off, what are you doing? We're going to go back to your other question. When you feel like you can surrender completely, is that you or is that him? Is that you're doing this or he's doing this to you? Before you decide to marry somebody, you have to have hamshachas halev. Right? The Rebbe always said, hamshachas halev. There's got to be some good chemistry. Even if everything else is right, he's everything you ever thought. He's got all the advantages, all the milas. But you don't feel something, then you don't marry him. What are you supposed to feel? Love? How can you love him? You don't even know him. Excited? Any guy you spend time with is going to be exciting, unless he's a total loser. Excitement doesn't prove anything. Especially if you're going skydiving together, which is a terrible idea. What is good chemistry? Good chemistry means when you're sitting with him, you feel completely comfortable being feminine. Because generally, when you sit with a man, you become very uncomfortable. Do I look right? Is he impressed? Is he attracted? So that even if you're enjoying it, but it's a challenge. When you're completely comfortable being feminine, he's doing that. And if he's completely comfortable being masculine while he's sitting with you, you're doing that. That doesn't happen with just any two people. So good chemistry means not you're excited about him. You're feeling so comfortable about you that he must be something special. That's good chemistry. The guy who keeps going out with one woman, another woman, another woman, another woman, because he's looking for the most beautiful, for the most gorgeous, for the most... He doesn't know what he's looking for. You marry somebody because of how they make you feel, not how you feel about them. Make sense? If I think you're gorgeous, you're smart, that's a reason to marry you? If I think you're fantastic, so what, I want to own you? Good chemistry means I feel good being with you. And that must be you making me so comfortable.
Does that mean it will always be there just because you feel it?
Maybe not. But if it can be there some of the time, that's a good sign. That's a sign of compatibility. I mean, it's not literally true, but if you can sit for 5 minutes and you don't feel like you have to say anything, that's good chemistry. You like sitting there with him and you don't have to say anything or be cute. That's good. He's making you comfortable. It's not easy. It has to be exactly the right chemistry for that to happen. So, you ready? Or are you more confused than before?
Can I ask another question? Do you think that the idea of kollel is like the opposite of mashpia mikam?
It can easily be. If you're making the money, you're supporting the family, and he's not doing anything, then yes, it ruins the whole dynamic of mashpia mikam. But if his learning is more important than the money you're bringing in, then it doesn't ruin it.
So do you have to know that you think that before you...
He has to know that. All these guys who walk around feeling embarrassed because their wife is making more money than them, well, then obviously you don't think you're doing anything special. Maybe you don't belong in kollel.
Is it bad to see a picture of somebody before you go out? Like to get an impression somewhat of them before you actually meet them? Or doesn't matter?
I don't know if anything is bad.
Right.
Pictures are not always true to life,
Right.
so don't take it too seriously.
But I know some people are like very against looking at
Yeah.
one.
Because if you take it too seriously, you could be saying no for the very wrong reason. If you're going to look at a picture, have a few pictures. Because he looks good in one of them, he looks terrible in the other one. And it's the same with making lists. Should I make a list of what I want in my husband? Yeah, make a list. Don't take it seriously. Don't take it with you on. Nope. Don't take it seriously. You can end up marrying somebody who is off the list, you know. And that's great. So should you have made a list? As long as you know that God runs the world, sure, make a list. Entertain yourself. But don't get hung up. You have a story with the bald guy? It's a true story. Shadchan sets up this couple. They meet, and she says no to the Shadchan after they met because he's losing his hair. He's going bald. The next guy that the Shadchan sets her up with is completely bald. But she thinks he's a really great guy and they should get together. So he tells him, meet this girl, go out with this girl, don't take your hat off. They go. She calls him afterwards. She says, how was it? He says, great. You want to go out again? Absolutely. Oh, right away. You told me not to take my hat off? I forgot. I took my hat off. She says, oh, well. Too bad. She calls the girl. Says, yeah, so how did it go? She says, great. She says, you want to go out again? She says, yeah. The shadchan says, even though he's bald? She says, he's bald? She didn't even notice. You see who runs the world? They're happily married. Why did it bother her that he was losing her hair, the first guy? Because he's not her husband. Her husband doesn't have any hair. And she likes it. That's how it works. So make a list. No bald guys, unless he's my husband. Then I'll marry him. So you should have good news soon. Don't agonize. Don't suffer. Your husband is there. He's a little slow, okay, if you can forgive him for that. You know, it's not easy to find you among all the girls in the world. So it takes a little while. We'll find you. You'll be married. And, you know what it looks like 12 years from now. Should have good news.